Okay, so here's where I'm at with revision 1 of the GC80. The exhaust ports are now teardrop shaped and a move away from the 3 ports to a now 4 transfer port design. I'm still running cross-flow layout for now, but I'm already thinking about switching to a snarl style. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's that wraparound type of porting style. For design revision 2, I'm going to be using the loop scavenged setup that most modern two-strokes use. Some people on TikTok and on other platforms were commenting that this setup doesn't really work. Will from the future here, just reading through some of your comments, a lot of people kept saying it's a two-stroke, not a four-stroke, and yeah, hardware-wise, that's completely fair. It doesn't have valves, so visually it does look like a two-stroke. But here's the thing, just because it doesn't have a valve train doesn't mean that it can't operate like a four-stroke. A four-stroke fires once every 720 degrees of crank rotation. This can do that, or it can fire every 360 like a traditional two-stroke. The part that makes it two-stroke intake compression, combustion, and exhaust. The GC engine runs its own four-stroke mode. The events stack differently. Exhaust and intake happen basically as one stroke and then compression the next. And then there's another intake and exhaust pair, and then compression, and then combustion. So it's kind of like 4 strokes to 5 strokes. If you want to get technical, I like to call it like a 4.5 stroke engine. The point is, it's not limited by hardware. The ECU decides the rhythm, 720 degrees, like a 4-stroke for efficiency, 364 power. If you don't really believe me, there are a couple examples of other engines that are 4 strokes that do not have your standard poppet valve. Good example are rotary valves and sleeve valves. Sleeve valves look pretty similar to a 2-stroke, but they are 4 strokes. But creators like 2-stroke stuffing on YouTube have already built engines that prove that it does work. His version wasn't super refined, but it did show that the concept was solid. And then there's Alpha Auto Technologies, who developed something very similar to both of them, but more similar to my design, except they use a rotary exhaust valve that's electronically phased to control timing and pressure, instead of using, like, skipping your direct injection firing, which is what I do. And when I looked at their patent, about 90% of it revolves around that valve and how it's controlled. My setup doesn't use a valve or need it. It relies directly on air and fuel injection to switch modes and handle timing. It makes it mechanically simpler, and you got either heavier hardware or heavier software. Mine is very software heavy. Right now I'm testing everything in theory, CAD calculations, just seeing what looks right. I'd love to have engine mod 2T for proper flow and timing simulation, but it's about $400, so I'm saving up for that while I keep refining the design. So yeah, it's still early, still theory heavy, but each revision gets a little closer to something real. And here's a little motivation on why I'm even doing this. Any number of cylinders you have on a 2-stroke when having all exhaust merge into one equally sounds like double that on a 4-stroke of the same RPM. For example, a 3-cylinder sounds like a 6-cylinder, since you can have both of their firing frequencies be about at 120 degrees. This is the Quincy Looper Inline 6 2-stroke that sounds almost identical to a F1 V12. That's the energy I'm chasing, modern engineering with that old school soul. So revision 2 is already on paper, so once I get the tools, we'll see how far this can really go. But that's basically all for right now. I'm going to be coming out with a couple other smaller videos and one really large one that kind of encompasses everything, not just kind of like the R&D side.